You are now listening to Carly's Couch.
I'm Carly.
And I'm Lex.
In this podcast, we discuss a wide array of topics about life and how to live your best life.
Whatever that looks like for you.
Hope y'all enjoy.
This week on Carly's Couch, we discuss how acting so casually to avoid disappointment really is just a defense mechanism.
Ooh.
Hola, hola. Welcome to the couch. My name is Alexia.
And I'm Carly.
I'm Marvel. Since she on the couch every other episode, she need to get a job.
I know.
Her job is loving me, her godmother.
Oh,
my baby.
Yo, shout out to Marvel.
Shout out Big Marvy.
How you doing today, Lexi?
I'm doing great. I'm feeling very good, very light, even though I have so much on my plate. But I feel very peaceful lately, so just trying to enjoy myself.
Yeah, I feel like this time of year is always a little bit lighter, sun shining more, feeling good. And so, yeah, I'm just riding that wave too.
Yeah, that's good. This week, our question from the couch from Carly Carpio was, what was your favorite?
No, what song reminds you?
What song reminds you of the skating rink? And first of all, when's the last time you went to a skating rink?
Bro.
We used to have skate nights in elementary school. That's the last thing I remember.
I about to say elementary and then middle school, actually. It was like a place to go, like, be cool, like, you know, as a whole thing. Shout out to Skateland.
Yeah, a lot of people still go, though. I know there's a cool place in Atlanta called Cascade that has, like, a skating group and, like, adults go there.
It's somewhere out here, too,
yeah,
that people be going and
roll
roll bouncing their ass off. But
so what are those songs?
Okay, so the first one is Free Fall. Oh, also, shout out to all of y'all who answered in like less than 10 minutes because I just threw this whole up there, so we appreciate you, y'all real. Okay, so Free Fall by Kate Trinata and Duran Bernard.
Do you know that song?
That does. But only because I've seen Duran Bernard skating to it.
Okay. Dang, the next one is
You're
my lady.
You're my
D'Angelo.
lady.
That is true because they used to play those slow ones. Next one is
At night, I think of you.
That's a classic skate song.
Yeah, but that's absolutely a skate song.
Obviously.
The next one is an old song. Shout out to my auntie. She managed a skating rink for 15 years.
Oh, so
and she said The Wanderer, and I had to Google that, and it's by someone named Dion. So if y'all want some new music, check that out. But she said she could think of a ton of songs. I mean, 15 years, I would hope so. But
Nate Dogg, Music and Me is on the list. I don't know that song either, though. I can't think of that.
Me neither. Roll Bounce, Cool in the Game.
Roll Bounce. That's old. That's very 70s.
And then this one definitely makes me think about it.
Yeah.
Love Like This, Faith Evans.
So basically the whole Save the Last Dance soundtrack. It probably could work for this.
Absolutely.
Honestly. Somebody said anything from E40, Kid and Play, Sierra, Immature, TLC. They must be from the West Coast.
They spanning, a lot of different things happening in that. That's an interesting gathering. That's
E40,
interesting
Kid and Play, Sierra, Immature, all
and
right.
TLC. I was about to say I have to look it up on my theme. I'm about to say, it ain't him at this time. And then the last one is Steve Miller Band, and that's my auntie's people. So that's if y'all have never heard of Steve Miller Band, check them out. They're great. They don't make me think of a skating rink, but I also wasn't born in the 60s. So.
Right. For me, it would be Candy Rain, probably.
Oh, yeah. Mine is, I never. They already got it.
That's definitely it.
Yeah, that really makes me. And the Lady by D'Angelo, because that was like a cute song where you wanted to hold hands and skate with somebody.
I doing that. I tried to skate. The last time I went to a skate rink was like 2020, maybe 21. And after like 2 laps, I was like, all right, like. I was doing too much work. It was too much.
I have a side quest that I want to learn how to backward skate because I don't know how to.
Yeah,
and
I don't have the interest there,
but that's one of the things we talk about our list of things that we want to do for random reasons. That is on mine. Tumbling is on mine. So yeah, at some point my ass gonna be in a skating rink.
All you gotta do is go to the spot for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go to one of the those class nights that they do. All right, Carly. Today we are talking about essentially. Would you say it's similar to having low expectations about approaching things as if you don't care what happens, or approaching things like whatever, what will happen, or like, well, what's the point of going too hard because, whatever happens is going to happen.
Yep.
But basically like approaching things casually and approaching things kind of nonchalantly, I would say as well. so that you don't ever feel like disappointed, essentially.
Mm-hmm. And I was drawn to this quote because I think this is something that people tell people a lot, in a sense, to try to like maybe protect them. Like, oh,
lower your expectations.
Yeah, like lower your expectations, have no expectations, like do things and expect the worst so that you, when it comes out better, you feel better. And I just don't know if I agree with that. I do feel like it is a defense mechanism, and that's why I liked it. Like whenever you act like things don't matter, even though they do, like one, you're lying to yourself. And then two, it's like while you're trying not to set yourself up for disappointment, like, is that any way to live? To really, I don't know, not let things be important to you? Like, is that not worth the risk?
Maybe. So this is a person who is, things are important to them, but they just don't. It sounds like they are not putting but so much effort, or they're not trying but so hard. And to what you're saying, to me, it sounds like self-fulfilling prophecy. And, you know, we always talk about how, like, how you think and how you speak is eventually how you perform and execute your day-to-day actions. And it is like you're accepting ahead of time just whatever comes your way instead of, like, just taking life by the horns. I think that's kind of the only, not the only, but that's the main part that kind of disgusts me a little bit. Like, when people have that certain vibe of, like, they're not in control at all, or that they should not dream big, or not even big sometimes. It'd be like regular, but like they shouldn't go out of their box or anything like that. That's very like, bleh.
Yeah, and I think to that point, like I think that people can still dream big and still approach things casually and just take on this air of nonchalance, right? Like, oh, it don't matter, you know, if I don't get this job because, you know, I don't care anyways, or this relationship can fall apart, but like I'm gonna be cool anyways. And I feel like I don't know if that. I feel like in my head, whenever you approach life like that, you kind of set yourself up to not enjoy the fullness of life.
Yeah.
Because I feel like disappointments and letdowns are all a part of our journeys and cycles. And if you don't allow yourself to get excited about things, then like, I don't know if your happiness and joy can then go up. Like if you're always trying to be even kill, no matter what happens, which I think is good, like in certain things, like nothing takes you too low or too high. But if you never even let yourself jump up a little bit and get excited, then like, what's the exciting point about life?
Yeah, and then we're saying approaching things casually. So to me that just sounds like it's subpar. So you already have a subpar approach to life, and that does make things good when they do work out, right? I also just feel like what ends up happening is that time goes by. Like when you approach things casually, that's the times that you end up like, oh, I'm in this relationship that's kind of like, but you're here for like 6 years, engaged for 12 years. Or it's like, I'm kind of still just at this job. Those are, to me, these are like the lingerer people who are just like in situations for too long. And time goes by, and it's like, meanwhile, you could have just like went hard on something, or like actually approached something with excitement or with a little more effort and enjoy it better. So it's like, you're not really losing anything, but you're not winning anything.
You're not winning anything.
Yeah.
And then I saw another quote on this that said, and it goes right into what you said, one of the most popular ways people settle is by approaching everything with a lack of intention and expectation. And so like to you end up in these relationships that you don't really care about, or this job that might just be okay. It might just be that, because you're so casual about things. And you can kind of get like lost in these cycles. But to your point about like not losing and not winning, I think, you know, trying to stay casual and not letting anything affect you that much, or being so nonchalant, like I think you are kind of losing out on the full experience of life, because life is highs and lows. And so why not like dream a little bigger, take a bigger risk, or let things actually be important to you.
Either way, they still are experiencing highs and lows. They're just not as good as they could be. Like, to be honest, like you're not even getting any the lows are still low. Like, you still gonna go through maybe a broke time, a crazy relationship, whatever, right? Regardless of how you go for things, you just go through it more quickly and like actually kind of accumulate more experience, more wisdom, more fullness. Like, I like how you've been saying the fullness of life. I feel like you just get to experience more instead of like just sitting there and being like,
Question. So we talk a lot about, you know, manifestation, emotional regulation, and detachment. We've had a couple episodes on detachment, right? So like I said earlier, not letting things take you too high or too low, or being too attached to the end result of a thing. Do you feel like taking things casual is a way to be detached? Is that like what they're working towards? Or what's the difference in people casually, approaching life versus detachment?
Because are you asking because we say you should be detached, but what's the difference?
Yeah, because like in spiritual communities, detachment is like a thing that people preach and how you can get through life and all that. But what's the difference in casually approaching stuff?
Okay, so that's a good question because similar to earlier when you brought up, what's the other quote about expectation? Like, don't have expectations. That's something that people say too, and it's like, well, I actually agree with, to a degree about not having expectations, and then also about being detached, because I think it's from results. So like if you're being casual, approaching something casual, and whatever happens at the end of that is like two different things. So I would say that a person approaching something casually is not even about them being detached or not. They're just not doing the actions. But regardless of that, you could still have an expectation or not. So that maybe this person has lower expectations. But either way, it's more about that action instead of the result.
Yeah, and I like that idea. So, an example of what that could look like, to be detached but still approaching things vigorously and excitedly, or if it really means something, letting it mean something to you, is like working really hard towards a project, but like letting go of your attachment of how it has to turn out. But you're still working really hard. You're still excited. You're still showing up every day. But if you apply to Sundance and you don't get in, it's not going to be the end all, because like you knew that you put everything you could into a process. As
opposed to, I would say, like approaching that casually might have been like, you see all the questions you have to answer, because I've done this sometimes, and you're like, let me just, not full sentences, or like maybe I just put some bullet points, and it's like I filled it out, but you didn't go as hard as you could go. You know what I mean? Because you're kind of like, well, if I don't, I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. That's how that looks. As opposed to sometimes, like when you see like a job application or something, you're like, well, this is perfect. Like, and you actually get excited and actually do a cover letter and like actually write it from the heart and don't pull like a copy and paste, and it feels better. Maybe you get it or maybe you don't. Either way.
Yeah.
But it's like that approach is so, I keep just saying it's blah, but it's just so
very
blah.
lackluster.
Yeah, it's just low energy.
And it's a very haphazard way to approach life, because I feel like no matter what you're working towards, if you're always putting your best foot forward, then you can feel good and proud about that. Like even if you don't get a thing, if you go for a job, if you do a pitch and don't get the client, if you try in a relationship and that shit doesn't work out, as long as you put your best foot forward, I feel like it's actually a little cowardice now that we're talking about it like this in my head to always be so casual that you could just be like, oh, I wasn't really trying anyways. That's why it didn't work out.
Yeah, I think so too. And approaching things with effort and with vigor, it also allows you to grow in different ways that approaching things casually doesn't. We're talking about this as being like a defense mechanism. So you're kind of like not giving yourself the opportunities for success if we're looking at it like a numbers game, as if you had the intention, like the other quote was saying, the intention towards your actions. So you really are settling. Like you really are saying, I'm okay with a whatever bar. And I don't think that's okay. I was going to say, is that okay? I don't really think that's okay.
I don't think it is either.
I think that's kind of disappointing.
It is, and I think it's kind of a sad way to look at life. One of my favorite quotes is, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Shout out to Wayne Gretzky. But like this, approaching it casually is just kind of chunking the ball up, however, instead of actually trying. And I think why it's a defense mechanism is I think that people think that they're protecting themselves from a big letdown. But I think that the deeper root of that is insecurity, because then if you get the rejected, it would prove yourself right, that you're not worthy, that you're not good enough. And you don't really want to do that. And so you're kind of insulating yourself by never really trying, or never trying as hard as you could, or never seeing what you're capable of. And so you end up in a bunch of lackluster situations, whether you can dismiss them because you didn't try, or you can be like, man, I barely tried and I got that.
Yeah. And then I feel like you're also just not even living in your full self, because really you're kind of thinking more. If you're approaching things casually and in your mind, you're thinking about like all of these things, like, okay, then I won't be disappointed and this and that. And, let me not go too hard and get my heart broken, whatever. You're thinking so hard that now you're actually just not even being authentic in your movements, your actions. There was something else you had said about, like if you go into things and you're like, all right, I'm going to just go all in. Let me be the kind person, a nice person. I want to call them morning, noon, and night. If that's how you are, then that's how you are, and like actually doing that. And then if they're like, dang, you're annoying, or I don't really like this, then it's like, bet, you could keep moving on, right? but at no time are you sacrificing who you are, yourself, and there's no regrets. There's nothing that you look back on like, oh, I shouldn't have did this or try to be something else or whatever, right? So all of this just helps you have a more aligned life. I think the biggest thing to something that you had also said earlier too was making sure you know, like if you recognize that you're doing this or not, because I can definitely think of times where I'm sure I've looked at things like, oh, you know, we just chilling or it's whatever. When if I really sit down, like what do I really want? Like I know I'm like wasting my time in this space because it's like you're in a place where you're too scared to like do what you really want to do. And yeah, it just feels kind of if it's not really lined up. So I think that's something as well to do is to really think about what you want in situations and where you're just not showing up how you want to show up.
Yeah, and looking at whenever you don't feel like you're able to be your authentic self or your full self, or you might be holding back and kind of figuring out why. It might not be, you know, this necessarily, but I think any part of your life where you feel like you can't show up fully is a good sign that you should probably take some time and investigate, because it does feel like, man, you don't want to get to the end of your life, and not to be all super dramatic, melodramatic, or whatever, but like you don't want to get to the end of your life and never really have tried or given your full self to anything. Yeah. Like, and don't waste this go round. Yeah.
Like, maybe this is something that you practice and gosh, I don't know, just doing, we always talk about doing things differently or just do something like go a different way, like go talk to somebody at a bar, like just do something different. Like that's where all the magic in life happens, when you're able to just freely like move and be spontaneous in your actions like that.
And it could even be with yourself. If you've never went full in on your workout regimen or on like trying to go hard and actually eat well because you're scared you're going to fail. Like you never know unless you try, right? Unless you really like push yourself past, because I feel like, especially in working out, it's such a great thing. Your body can usually always do more than your mind thinks that you can. And you got to push past that. And that's why I'm so grateful to have participated in sports, because I feel like I had that mentality early. Yeah. Like I can always do more than I think I can. I can always push harder. And I feel like that would be a great exercise. So if you do find this in your life, in relationships with yourself, whatever, to try to do more or allow yourself to show up and be a little extra. It's okay to dress a little funky and do whatever, you know, whatever your heart is calling to, because that's how you learn, and that then you're in the right spaces and you're your authentic self. So then life can direct you where you need to go to get to the next level.
I like that. And I like those examples that you used about like how we approach our own kind of personal goals. I think that is a big thing with fitness and nutrition. And it makes me think also of a friend. I kind of judged them a little bit, but I had a friend who was doing air quote Ramadan this year, but they were eating the whole. I forgot what they were doing. It's like they were saying like, oh, I'll just eat it this time, and like while they were still doing something, I was like, at least just go a day without like try to do it the whole way, right? But also I was like, man, am I just being judgy? Because like they were like, yeah, they talked to some other people who practice Ramadan, and they say, you know, just kind of ease into it, don't feel too, you know, whatever, like don't try to go too hard. But I'm just like, I'm really about that. Like if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. Like what if I have a fail, then cool, I have a fail. Because I have friends like that too. Like they did it, but then there's a couple times that they were like, dang, and that's fine. I think all of it is fine, but it's like, but go hard, like do it how it's supposed to be. Like try. To me, it's like, are you even doing enough to get something out of it if you're only just saying it and just like barely, you know, touching the tip of the iceberg?
I feel like that's a great point too, and I feel like that could be the defense mechanism for a lot of people, is they don't want to fail.
And so I just say I'm going to go ahead and eat 2 times a day instead of 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, okay.
Yeah, and it's like, why not just try? And I think that, but society kind of has made us scared to fail.
People never know where they can go.
Exactly, but that's the thing. If you let your fear of failure hold you back, you'll never know where you can go. And I feel like that's so much more limiting than wise that we think it is. Like I remember I was in a pageant from Miss MCHS, my high school, and my biggest fear was failure. And now I'm like, girl, I don't care. I fail all the time. And that's okay. But little baby me was so terrified of messing up.
Yeah, I think fear of failure can be sometimes hard to identify. Like that's really what's holding you back. Like most of the time, if I catch myself procrastinating, and it's like usually like some kind of work stuff, at some point I finally get to like, I'm scared of something, but it's hard to think that from the beginning. Because at the top, you know, you're like, yeah, I want to get this client, or I want to, you know, whatever, make my money or be successful and all those things. And yet it's like fear of like, oh, this isn't gonna be good enough, or I don't know. You gotta unpackage like what exactly it is for you. But then every once in a while, I'm like, yeah, it is that. It's just saying fear of failure just sounds crazy, I guess. But that's what it goes down to. I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't want to look like I don't want anybody else to think different of me than like how I feel about myself.
Or to validate your insecurities about yourself. Because if you do fail, if you don't show up, if
I didn't know, exactly
then I'm
what I
not
was
good
doing.
enough. Then I'm not smart enough. Then I'm whatever all these things are that we carry around, all this trauma and all these insecurities and worries and things, that have probably stemmed from very real situations in our lives that we can work to heal. But if you never confront them, then they never heal. And so this week, I would love to hear from y'all's thoughts. Like, do you approach things too casually, or have you noticed, like maybe just relationships, you just are so scared of heartbreak, or you had a really bad relationship and so now you like, I'm just good on everybody or whatever. And then also, how have you maybe changed that, or did you learn anything, or are you going to try anything new?
And are you always like giving yourself ways out? Like, I'm eating salads, but then on Tuesdays and Thursdays it's my cheat
Burgers
day.
days.
Yeah, it's just like a lot. So look at yourself. Look at how your level of commitment to things. Think about the efforts that you're putting towards the goals that you want, and think about where your level of effort is, and if that has something to do with how you feel about maybe failing, or if it's a defense mechanism for you. So take some risks this week.
Be intentional.
Yeah, be intentional.
Have some expectations.
Be yourself. Be open. Try something random, new, different.
And let us know what that is.
And have a great week.